back to another video. We are from group 5 and in today's video we will discuss about two important components of the English grammar, that is determiners and modifiers. So firstly we will discuss about determiners, what they are, how they function, and of course their types including predeterminers, central determiners, and post-determiners. After that, we will continue discussing about modifiers, how they modify noun, and their types, that is classifying modifiers and descriptive modifiers. In the end of the video, we hope that you'll be able to differentiate between determiners and modifiers, and of course use them properly to construct English sentences. So without any further ado, let's begin.
Hello everyone, I'm Maureen and now I will explain about determiners. A determiner is a word that comes before a noun and gives more information about it. It can show quantity, ownership, or which specific noun we are talking about. A determiner cannot stand alone. It must be followed by a noun. For example, a book, the teacher, my bag, those students. Now, there are three types of determiners: predeterminers, central determiners, and post-determiners. First, predeterminers. Predeterminers come before the main determiner. Some examples are all, both, double, half, twice, many, such, and what. For example, all the students, both my sisters, half the class. Second, central determiners. Central determiners are the main determiners in a noun phrase. This group includes articles, an, the, demonstratives, this, that, these, those, possessive adjectives, my, your, his, her, our, their, specifying genitives, for example, John's, and other words like another, any, each, every, no, either, neither, much, some, enough, what, which, and whose. For example, the book, my house, each student, John's car. Third, post-determiners. Post-determiners come after the main determiner but before the noun. This group includes cardinal numbers like 1, 2, 3, ordinal numbers like first, second, third, words like next and last, quantifiers such as few, fewer, fewest, little, less, least, many, more, most, and also other, own, same, and such. For example, the two students, my first day, the last 3 weeks, her own car. It is important to remember that determiners follow a specific order: predeterminers, central determiners, then post-determiners, and finally the noun. For example, all his 3 children. Now, I will briefly explain the difference between specifying genitive and classifying genitive. A specifying genitive shows real ownership. For example, John's shirt. We can say John's expensive shirt. Here, John's shows that the shirt belongs to John. On the other hand, a classifying genitive does not show ownership. It shows type or category. For example, a man's shop. This means a shop for men, not owned by men. We cannot say a man's expensive shop. So, the specifying genitive behaves like a determiner, while classifying genitive functions more like a modifier, which will later be explained by my friend. To conclude, determiners are important because they help us give clear and specific information about the noun. There are 3 types of determiners: predeterminers, central determiners, and post-determiners, and they must follow the correct order.
Next, I will explain about modifiers. Modifiers are words or phrases that give extra information about a noun. They help us understand the noun more clearly. For example, if we only say house, the meaning is still general, but if we say a big house, the meaning becomes more specific. So, modifiers are used to describe or explain a noun. Based on their position, modifiers are divided into two types, pre-modifiers and post-modifier. The difference is simple. Pre-modifiers come before the noun and post-modifiers come after the noun. First, let's talk about pre-modifiers. Pre-modifiers appear before the noun and usually describe a characteristic. For example, a big house and two smart students. In a big house, the word big describes the noun house. In two smart students, the word smart tells us what kind of student they are. A noun can also have more than one pre-modifier. For example, a long hot day. Here, long and hot both describe the noun day. Now, let's move on to past modifiers. Past modifiers appear after the noun and give more detailed information. For example, the book on the table and the girl with glasses. In the book on the table, the phrase on the table explains which book we mean. And in the girl with glasses, the phrase with glasses help us identify the girl. A noun phrase can also have both pre-modifier and post-modifier at the same time. This means the noun is explained from two directions, before and after the noun. For example, a red bag on the chair. In this noun phrase, the noun is bag. The word red is pre-modifier because it comes before the noun and describes the color of the bag. Meanwhile, on the chair is a post modifier because it comes after the noun and tells us the location of the bag. If we only say a bag, the meaning is still very general. When we add the pre-modifier red, the meaning becomes more specific. Then, when we add the post modifiers on the chair, the noun phrase becomes even clear. These examples show that pre-modifiers and post-modifiers work together to give more complete information about the noun. So, to conclude, modifiers are used to add information and make noun phrases clear. They can appear before or after the noun, and a noun can have more than one modifier.
Alright, the next material is focusing on discontinuous modifier, modifier of modifier, and relative clauses as post-modifiers. Let's start with the first topic, discontinuous modifiers. A discontinuous modifier is a modifier that separated into two parts. One part appears before the noun and the other part appears after the noun. Even though the modifier is split, it still functions as one complete idea describing the noun. For example, the easiest children to teach. In this phrase, the easiest comes before the noun children, while to teach comes after the noun. Together, they describe which children we are talking about. Now, we compare it with this sentence. The children who are easiest to teach. Instead of splitting the modifier, we use a relative clauses. Who are easiest to teach. The meaning is the same, but structures describe children who are easy to teach. The difference is only in the structure, not the meaning. So, in the first example, the adjective easiest works with the infinitive phrase to teach to complete its meaning. The adjective needs additional information easiest to teach. That is why the part of the modifier appears after the noun. This structure is common in English, especially with adjectives like easy, difficult, hard, interesting, or important. For example, she is the best person to ask. In this example, the modifier is not placed in one single position. It surrounds the noun. That is why it's called a discontinuous modifier. Next is modifier of modifier. In English, not only can a noun be modified, but modifier itself can also be modified. Look at this example, a comfortably cool room. Let's analyze it step by step. The main noun is room. The adjective cool modifies room, it tells us what kind of room. But then we have comfortably, which modifies cool. So the structure look like this. Comfortably to modifies cool, cool modifies room. This creates a layer structure. The adverb gives more detail about the adjective and the adjective gives more detail about the noun. Here are more examples. A very difficult exam. An extremely beautiful painting. In this case, the adverb modifies the adjective. The adjective modifies the noun. This makes the noun phrase more precise and expressive. Without the adverb, the meaning is simpler, like a cool room, just like that. With the adverb, a comfortably cool room. The second phrase gives a more specific feeling. It suggests that the temperature is not just cool, but cool in pleasant and comfortable way. So, modifier of modifier structure help us to add nuance and deeper description in noun phrases. Relative clauses as post modifiers. Relative clauses are one of the most common types of modifiers in English. A post modifier is a modifier that comes after the noun. Look at this example. He had a nasty gash which needed medical attention. The noun phrase is a nasty gash. Then we have which needed medical attention. This is a relative clauses that give additional information about the noun gash. If we separate into an independent sentence, it becomes the gash needed medical attention. So the relative clause contains a subject which, referring to the gash, and the verb needed, it functions like a small sentence attached to the noun. Relative clauses usually begin with the words like who, which, that, whose, and where. For example, the student who won the competition is my friend. The book that I bought yesterday is very interesting. In all these examples, the relative clauses comes after the noun and provides more information about it. Relative clauses are very important because they allow us to combine ideas into one sentence instead of using many short sentences. For example, instead of saying the gash was nasty, the gash needed medical attention, we can combine them to he had a nasty gash which needed medical attention. This makes the sentence more natural and efficient. I think that's all from me. Back to the moderator.
So we've come to the end of our video. We've talked a lot about determiners and modifiers. So basically, determiners functions to signal nouns. They tell us that a noun is coming, and they also help to clarify reference, possession, quantity, and specificity. On the other hand, we also talk a lot about modifiers and how they help describe and limit meaning. So that's about the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed it and see you again in the next meeting.